All right. Call to order the November 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Trails and Greenways Committee for Newtown Township. We're going to start with roll call. Start with myself, Anthony DeVincenzo, present. Beth Dungisha, vice chair, is currently absent. Secretary Cook is currently absent. And then I'll note when they come in, right? We just have to mark the time. That period. Terry? Thank you. John?
Yeah.
Custer, present?
Part of me.
Part of you. Good timing. All right. Joe Falcon. Roll call. All right. Joe Kasiska. Thank you. I have to look at your spelling your name. Sorry, Joe. And Mark Carr. All right. Mark, yours is a lot easier to spell. Everybody, please now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is public comment for agenda items only. We have two people from the public here. Thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciated. I don't know if you've had the opportunity.
Going to get you to step one back, actually approve your agenda first and then do that.
Do that first. Okay. All right. All right. So item 5, consider approving the agenda for today. I don't know why it shows up that way. That's how it came from Jamie.
I have agendas before that.
Oh, I've got two versions that I got then. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Consider approving the agenda for today's meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay. And all those in favor? Aye. Hearing no opposed, the ayes have it. Agenda passes. Okay, and then going on to the public comment for agenda items. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it. It posted on, I think, the 27th, which was, I guess, last Friday. So do you have any comments or anything else, related to what we're discussing? For the record, please give us your name and address within the community.
Sure. Evan Pappas, 124 Tyson Road. I just have a brief comment about the agenda item with the zoning, how that affects trails and greenways. I just wanted to, I know you guys, I think Erin was taking the lead on that, but just wanted to comment that I was here a couple meetings ago and there's seem to be questions about how zoning affects walkability and other missions of this committee, and there's a lot of items that in zoning that affect it. I think the biggest one is parking minimums. I think that creates a lot of situations. That creates unwalkable places. When you have a apartment building or a office that requires 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet and things like that, or stores that require huge, parking areas. When minimum parking is mandated by zoning and not left up to the property owners to figure out, what works best for them and their customers or their business or however they want to operate. I think that can create a situation like, look at any shopping center. Is that friendly to pedestrians? Is that friendly to bikes? Look at these giant, parking, seas of parking that are between any sidewalk or any trail and getting to any of these uses. And that's the biggest one that I think affects walkability, which is part of the mission of this committee. And then there's the other ones, separation of uses when you don't, I mean, I'm not saying that every part of the township needs to be, mixed use area, but, in the core at least, having mixed uses creates, close places where people can live, shop, work, makes it easier for that kind of thing. And then, other things like, setbacks and whatever, lot sizes. When you have, again, not every part of the township needs to be, a walker's paradise. That's not what I'm saying. But when you have, 1 acre lots, those areas are not going to be walkable. Doesn't matter. You can put all the sidewalks and no one's going to walk. So all those things in zoning affect walkability. I'm not advocating any specific change. I just want to bring up that that's a topic you guys were discussing a couple of months ago. And there's a lot in zoning that affects the mission of this committee a lot. So just want to throw my 2 cents in about those topics.
I mean, what you brought up though, initially got me thinking of stuff that we didn't discuss in the original topic of bringing up zoning. And I'm sure everybody here, when you brought up like shopping malls, is they're not pedestrian friendly. They never have been. I get frustrated all the time with trying to walk around them and how difficult they are to navigate. And unfortunately, it's people that went to school for the same stuff I did that end up designing half of them.
Sure.
And I get very frustrated because I know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. But I hate it as an average citizen, obviously, so I get it. So right now, Erin has not briefed this committee on it. We didn't want to lose track of that mission, and she had specifically wanted to tackle that, and then wanted to make sure we gave her some help. We wanted John. We're going to create a little mini subcommittee with a few people. Usually we do that, about 3 people is a good size, to be able to research the existing zoning laws, and then specifically looking for ones. What we were attempting to do was look for things that we believe are an impediment to pedestrian, bicycling, green spaces and stuff right now, and see if it's an opportunity to change that. We're all kind of inspired by a statement that Mr. Neese made, is that your zoning should be thinking about what you want your town to be. And that was why we became kind of inspired to bring that up as a good thing. So the first step I think that we're doing was have the subcommittee start by having a meeting with the township and figuring out, looking through them and actually coming up with a few things that could be coming for open discussion. And then that subcommittee would present it to this committee. So maybe what I'll do is in the future is the next time it's scheduled to be on the agenda, I'll make sure we're more specific when we get to that point of, hey, they're going to actually bring stuff to this meeting to discuss for open forum so that we can get public comment at that period. That's something that I got to do, is be more specific in the agenda, I believe, to try to make sure that everybody exactly knows what's going on and how we're approaching it. I don't know if anybody wants to add any comment or if I covered that all right, but Don, what do you think?
Yep. Summed it up pretty well. Yep, great.
I'm learning. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
No, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you for being a repeat offender of coming to these meetings. All right. To the other member of the public, you have any? You don't want to follow that. We get it. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Excuse me. Okay. On to item 6 of approving the minutes. So we had an issue with the minutes from September not getting into everybody fast enough before last meeting, so we actually have 2 to vote on to approve from the past 2 meetings, September 7th and October 5th. They were included in the agenda that went out on Friday. So starting with once from September, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from September 7th? Moved by committee member Carr. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mr. Falcon. Okay. And all those in favor of approving? Aye. Ayes have it. Do I hear a motion to approve October 5th minutes?
I do have a comment.
Okay.
October 5, and it's under minutes,
Okay.
point 1. Says consider approving the minutes of 7/2020. Perhaps we ought to have a line below that saying.
In the October 5th one. Okay.
Yeah. 6.1. Just says consider approving, but it doesn't talk about
The reason why it was pushed.
well,
Okay.
no, just the fact that it was posted.
Well, I think it was still on the agenda. So we considered it, but we identified there was an issue.
I'll have them just put in that it was tabled.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments? So do we have to wait now to approve it, or are we good? Thank you,
No,
sir.
I mean, if you want to approve them based on that change,
Yes, based on that change, based on John's change, which I'm good with, that's fine. Okay, John, you want to make?
Aye.
To approve the minutes from October 5th with the adjustment. It is very hard to do the note keeping and run the meeting in the same time. All right, we have no presentations today, so we're moving on to new business. We're gonna do a little switch around, Joe.
Yep.
So we're gonna bring up 7.3, the discussion of e-bikes. Joe was kind enough to do some research, send over some kind of a base outline of what he had found and looked up for the discussion points of this meeting. And Joe, if you want to kind of start with that.
Sure. So I just want to do a little bit of presentation and I'd outlined some, I mean, we're not going to fix anything tonight, nor I don't think we're the appropriate committee to write any ordinances or anything like that, but it's based off suggestions, considering that most of the people that will be using e-bikes probably will be using the trails that this particular committee has domain over. So in particular, e-bikes, as you know, they're becoming more and more popular due to their efficiency, eco-friendliness, and especially like we were talking about, like parking lots. As they get larger and larger, it's just a lot easier for people to use e-bikes. I myself have an e-bike, and I've used them in other states like Colorado, specifically this past summer, and was surprised by the specific and comprehensive regulations and ordinances they have for those bikes. So in particular, they've identified, or at least most of the jurisdictions qualify e-bikes into 3 categories. There's a class 1, which is a pedal assist only, and the maximum speed is 20 miles an hour. Class 2, which is an e-bike that is equipped with both a throttle and also could have pedal assist, but otherwise it can go faster than 20 miles an hour. And then class 3 is a pedal assist e-bikes that go over 28 miles an hour. So, I mean, if they were going over 28 miles an hour and they were just throttle, then theoretically they're not considered an e-bike and they would be a motorcycle, as you would with like an e-motorcycle, whatever. And in particular, based off of those classifications, then they have different regulations based off the usage of roads and or trails. So typically what we find out is class 1 e-bikes generally are allowed on all bike paths and roadways. There's no prohibition. However, typically class 2s and class 3s, there is a prohibition just because of how quickly they can move. One, typically you're in a pedestrian walkway or trailway. So if you have a bike that can go over 30 miles an hour, you can come up on people pretty quick, especially even people that are on regular bikes, especially going uphill, that you can come up to. And so that's something that is very much concerned for making sure that there's no accidents, liability, et cetera.
The other concern with the speed is the downhill and the weight of them, because they are heavy.
They are heavier, but I mean, it's more of, mass and inertia,
Yeah.
but specifically the speed at which you're going. I mean, you can be on a 30-pound e-bike, which is pretty light, and you could do pretty good damage, especially to a
Velocity
pedestrian.
is the squared component.
Right. Now, some of them did have helmet regulations. I don't know. I mean, we also live in a state where I ride motorcycles, and if I really don't want to, I don't have to wear a helmet. I don't know what the ordinances are for helmets with bicycles. I believe there's probably an ordinance here.
I think it's
Kids
for
under
children.
12
Yeah.
only.
Right.
It's a
That's it.
statewide thing, I believe, and
Yeah,
it's
a
it's
state
under
law,
12.
Kids under 12, over 12, there is no requirements.
But there are states and jurisdictions that do require helmets if you're using e-bike. I don't know how that would work considering, people would conflate that with respect to motorcycles. And if you can go 100 miles an hour down the road without a helmet, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be something that's warranted or.
Well, yeah, but
Or
you
have-
also need a you need a special license to take a motorcycle off where you need to ride a motorcycle, you need a license versus a e-bike.
I don't know. if
I mean, that
that's-
might be a
If
distinction.
you're,
I'm
if
saying.
you're a passenger of a passenger vehicle, you still have to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, yeah.
So, then there's age restrictions. Some places have age restrictions. I think that's mostly because most e-bikes when they first came out were adult bikes that had, a specified speed. They are making junior bikes now, which do have, lower speeds, velocities, whatever. So I don't know if there's age restrictions, but then, you have a whole nother situation of, talking about parking, where you're gonna leave an e-bike. Most e-bikes cost well over $1,000 to $2,000. If you're going to Acme, what are you gonna lock it up against? Either an existing piece of heavy equipment or a road sign or something like that. So these are considerations. Some of the other considerations is if there's penal, if there's penalties with respect to, violation of any of those ordinances or, if they're, you take away the bike or whatever it may be. Then the biggest piece of that would be public awareness and education. In particular, most of the states that I've been, including California, Beth can probably tell you this, and some of the national parks that they have very, very good signs of which paths can be used for e-bikes, what type of e-bikes can be used. And then it specifically states underneath that what is prohibited on that trail. It's my understanding that Chester Valley Trail, you're not allowed to have e-bikes, but people go on e-bikes and there's no signage saying that you can't use it. So the only place that I've ever seen that is on the website. And then the other piece, which I don't necessarily agree with, but a lot of people do, is data collection and review. So they have a data collection. It could be a registration of that e-bike, see how many people are on the road. Now that can be, I don't think it's a nefarious type of thing, but people will qualify that any type of data collection would be nefarious. Therefore, it's not something the township needs to have. But these are all considerations that if we were to implement some type of ordinance with respect to e-bikes and e-bike regulations, these are the things we have to consider.
Yeah, like I know when I was in college, like Penn State, you were technically supposed to register a regular bicycle. And the real reason is they
Stealing
just
it.
wanted to be able to ticket you if you parked it somewhere you're not supposed to, tied it up to something you weren't supposed to, that kind of stuff. And then I was actually a commuter, so I rode my bike in campus and I had no idea of the ordinance because I didn't live on campus, didn't have it. But I remember getting into a tiff with a police officer about that because I had no idea of the law. One thing I was curious about when I read your summary was how do you do enforcement when I've looked and I've done my research on looking at like buying one and all that kind of stuff. And it's not like they look different from bike to bike to bike from the different classes necessarily. Like you can't tell that from afar if a, officer or whatever sees somebody riding what could be a class 1 on a trail. There's not a huge difference in the look of them. A lot of them now have similar designs and fat tire designs. If there's a battery on board, there's going to be a large down tube or something else where potentially it's going to look similar. So I was just curious about that. Like, is it really an enforcement, like a secondary enforcement where if you're seen doing something that is unsafe and then it's a tack-on violation, if you happen to, oh yeah, you're doing something unsafe, that's why you got stopped. And then if they find out, oh yeah, you were riding a class 3, 28, 30 miles an hour on a trail, then okay, yeah.
That would be a secondary or tertiary thought. on my
Thank you.
part.
That was the terminology.
That would be, I think the biggest thing is for purposes, there has to be some type of implementation or ordinance, because then you have liability on the township that doesn't want to have ordinances and letting people with class 3s hit people. And then that becomes a problematic issue. That's number one. Number two is, I think enforcement's actually going to be based on the people that are on the bike pass. So if people on the pass know that a class 3 shouldn't be on there, well, you're going to hear it. And so there'll sort of be public enforcement with that. But at the same time, I think, if there is an ordinance and a police officer, or whoever has the authority to, stop someone, then obviously you have to have an ordinance for them to do so.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't think there's anything, there's no like felonies or anything like that. I don't even know if I'm fine. But some of the other stuff's like super important. I mean, like the parking is a major issue. Like there would have to be bike, you know, and I don't know if that's a township thing or, you know, these are things that, you know, commercial properties, they should be having there anyway. I don't really know much in the way of having bike racks anywhere.
I was
know?
thinking the same thing, like a lot of different areas when they do new developments, that's part of it. They'll not only put bike racks, but they'll put bike maintenance stations and stuff, like the whole King of Prussia, what do they call it? The Town Park Center, whatever it is. That was part of their development plan. It had to be in. They had to have bike racks. They had to have, they had a couple of maintenance stations or
Well, that's
whatever.
because they only have 25% parking for the people, number of people who can actually go
Correct.
there.
Correct. But
So-
point being is we've seen it in like with that kind of stuff in the ordinances when they, for the development plans, when they come through. So very similar to what we do now is when a plan comes in for land development review, that would be something we could potentially recommend if there isn't some sort of zoning requirement for the new development or something like that. So that's something we definitely.
So I think it's something that we can, as a group, subgroup, whatever, again, I don't think any more than 3. That would be violation of Sunshine Act. Start and then bring something to this group, and then obviously it has nothing to do with us. That would have to be submitted as a, I don't know what you would qualify that. Yes, it would be recommendation.
Well, I think you could submit, you know, based on what you know, your focus would primarily be on trails and or potentially other biking areas in the township. And you would submit what your suggestions were, and then you might also have a list of things that you think the township ought to consider in the ordinance that you're not weighing in on necessarily, but just some things that you found. And then submit that, and then we would take that through the proper channels.
Yep.
What about scooters without pedals? 'Cause some of those have creeped up in speed and
The
power.
Nan scooters and.
So
yeah,
right,
they're
right off the
hot.
bat, if they do not have,
Pedals.
if they don't have pedals, they're strictly throttle. They're
Yes.
automatically class 2 to begin with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they have a real problem in Philadelphia with those right now,
Yep.
but the cops just confiscate them. If they catch you, they'll confiscate them and you don't get them back.
They catch them what, doing what?
You're not allowed
You're
on the road.
running over people's property.
On the road
Oh, yeah.
in a city?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were allowed to be on the road because they're essentially,
No, you're not talking about a Vespa. We're talking.
no, I know,
Like
my,
ATVs
no,
and stuff.
a good friend of mine has like a full suspension one, goes 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
And he
They're,
rides it to and from work. He works in the city, lives in
They're
the
not
city.
road legal.
Really?
yeah, they're not in Pennsylvania at all.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. He actually almost died. Somebody ran a red light and ran over him. And then he got another one.
But in Philly, you may have a group of like 50 to 100 people. And ATVs, quads. and-
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Motorcycles.
That's the different issue. But I see a lot of individual commuters that just live in the city, work in the city that I see tearing around all the time. But they're like in the road. you know.
If anything in the roadway, it has to be registered anyway.
Hmm.
through
Yeah, it's a good point.
PennDOT.
Okay. All right, so should we make it a point of this discussion here? We definitely need a subcommittee. You've got the groundwork with the outline of the things that subcommittee needs to at least look at. I've reached out to James Bergman at the Bike Delco Coalition because he did mention this stuff before, and I asked him to provide, hey, what's your go-to resource right now for e-bikes, sample regulations, templates, so that we could have some additional stuff. So, Joe, I think you're heading that subcommittee. and the-
Yeah, I mean, I think we. can
I was
probably
gonna
put
say,
something
Mark,
together
you've been
before
very
the end of the year,
vocal
but
and
I
I'm very interested in it, so I'd like to be a part of it too.
I mean, the work's pretty much done. It's just a matter of going over if there's any other ideas that have to be added to it.
Okay,
And again, we're not writing an ordinance. These are recommendations that go to a higher level of the individuals that would put together an ordinance.
do your mic.
Do bicycle racks, like, I don't even think we have them at the library, do we
We
have them out there?
We have,
Is that part of is it under our aegis or is that another
well,
committee?
it's,
Because we could just easily suggest, put them here, put them there, and,
Yeah.
and even bigger ones, if we went with e-bikes.
so it's mentioned actually so we do have planned bicycle paths, obviously in the plan, right? And they're on our maps and everything. And there is talk about safety of bicycle traffic and all that kind of stuff and how it can help the communities. And they do talk about a little bit of that, but it just depends, like the Parks Department has that as under there at the township properties. I think what we would be talking about in the context of this would be making the recommendations that commercial properties, as you mentioned, that are being developed, include those in their plan, just like we're making the recommendation for sidewalks. It's all about safe travel. We don't talk specifically about pedestrians. It's all about connectivity and alternative means of transportation being pedestrian and bicycle. So I think, at least personally, I think that's easily, covered.
Well, the other thing
I
you gotta
think there's, go ahead.
the other thing is put the onus on the corporate people within the township. So, I mean, I would say most people, including Acme and some of your larger chains like Chipotle and stuff. I mean, these are, or even like the people that own those properties, like ESG is like a huge thing right now in corporations.
Yeah.
And that's part of ESG is reducing the number of, motor vehicle traffic, et cetera. So that's something that goes a long way. I mean, regardless if they personally believe it or not, that's something that goes towards the valuability of their ESG policies that they have as part of their corporate.
PR.
Below cost.
At a very low cost, yeah, it's not as onerous as some of the other things that we've talked about with like hundreds of feet of sidewalk or something like that from the cost perspective. Yeah, no, I agree. Does that answer the question?
So I would say two things. One is if it is related to where you think a bike rack should be within a township trail, I think absolutely it falls under the purview of this committee.
Trailheads and stuff.
Trailheads, things like that. And I think you recommend those, and then George and the staff will work towards, looking at what that feasibility is and that, and then we look at it for budget purposes. When you think about whether you want corporations to be doing it as part of their projects, I think that actually is going to require a change to our land development and or zoning process. And so there, I think would be a recommendation that you would make back to the board for those areas. If you want it, the thing with sidewalks is it's in our ordinance that says you need to put sidewalks in. It's not just a one, it's actually, we have a requirement. And so it can be waived, but the whole idea would be that if you want it to be a part of something and you really think it's something that makes a difference, then we should make it a part of our ordinances so that it's required. And then it takes it away from, yes, you can speak to it in land development, but if it's not there and required,
Yeah.
the developer doesn't have to do it.
Well, then that can come from the recommendations that we'll do with the subcommittee as we just kind of fill in the blanks on this, and that should just be something that we recommend up. So that's great.
Are,
Anything else, Terry?
are kids allowed to ride bikes to school and leave them outside school all day? They used to be at Culbertson, but I don't know that they're allowed to do that now.
I think that's up to the school, and I have no idea what the school has done with that.
That's a school decision, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't even you have to, there's a lot of rules for getting on and off a bus anymore. They used to be able to just walk home. Now they can't just walk home.
I'm assuming they need like parental, like written consent or something, and there probably is a minimum age limit, like a minimum age to see that they're responsible at that age.
Let me just say that I
Okay.
don't think the township wants to get into that decision. We have a school district that can take care of that, and we would leave that up to the school district.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, appreciate it. Anything else, Joe? You want final comments on this topic for now? All right, so we'll find some time, three of us get together. Does anybody else, any comments before we move on? Okay. Hearing none, move on to 10.1, or the new 10.2, I guess, discussion and possible action. When I do the notes for the meeting, I'll rearrange all this stuff. Past and future trail walks. Terry?
We had a rainy day at Garrett Williamson for the Harvest Fest, so about half the number of people came that were there last year. However, Joe Kasuska ran that table like a champ and Do you want to tell them about it?
There was quite a bit of people in the afternoon who actually showed up. And I was showing them the meetup website and our website, you know, where it actually told the plan of the township. And everybody was very interested. They're actually taking pictures of your signage for the next walk. So hopefully you have some new signups for the meetup.
Yeah, we do.
Because I would say, I mean, it wasn't constant that there was people there, but everybody that stopped by was very interested.
Thank you.
And few people were asking about, you know, which walks are child safe or bringing a pet, dogs. And I said that, you know, if there is any restrictions, usually you put that on the meetup.
Mhm. Thank you. That was really great that you did that. And because I was, after the second walk that we did 3 walks instead of 4 because of the rain. And so after the second walk, I was like, I'm going home. It's just soaking wet, but it was fun.
Beth
Uh,
actually did the last walk and there was only one person.
It was
Well-
Paul Seligson.
Yeah, there was
Beth
only
gave
one
Paul a
person on the walk and they got pretty wet.
But-
Yeah, they got wet.
One thing you said that was good is that people were going to the banner.
They were.
So that was the exact intention of that was better public engagement and get more recruitment for future events and different
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
was
that. It's
actually,
nice big banner. They go to the QR code real quick and it's worked great. So
I was
that's good
actually
news to hear
showing
that.
them on my phone, the meetup page, and they were taking pictures of my phone.
Oh,
as a meetup.
sweet. Yeah, that was great. I thought the table looked nice and everybody was happy. And so thank you very much.
What was a big hit was your flowers.
I've cut some dahlias and I always like to have flowers on the table. Thank you. So our next one, we had 2 in October and this next one in November is 11/11. And I brought a little thing. I don't know if y'all want to post it. With, Willistown Conservation Trust. It'll be at the Ashbridge Preserve on September 11th, starting at 9 a.m. And it is going to be led by really brilliant people from Willistown, primarily Lauren McGrath. She's the director of the Watershed Protection Program there. And I've seen her do this presentation and it's brilliant. It takes you all through the preserve and actually that was formerly a lake back there.
There's a lake bed.
Yeah, it was a
Dried
lake
up
bed. Well, there was a dam.
Yeah.
So then they removed that and now with the amazingly rich fertile soil there, they planted hundreds and hundreds of trees and they're just booming out there. And you've got beavers are back in the creek and all kinds of wildlife are back in there now. So it's going to be a good walk.
What time is the walk?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Thank you.
Yeah,
Terry, are you putting that on the meetup site?
I just got the confirmation today. I'll put it up tomorrow.
Good.
And I'll also put it, you know, if y'all would put it on the page for the, you know, website and I'll do a Facebook post and the patch and next door.
Great.
So, and I'll send this little flyer to everybody too. It's just an announcement then, that's cool. But that's all I've got. I'm thinking, if we do one in December, I'd like to do it with the Historical Society. Because they have these Christmas teas and just do a Goshen Road thing maybe. But I might not be available. So that means if somebody else is interested in doing one, let me know, please. And Kathy Cavalier. Okay?
November, I'm out, but December, I could probably.
That'd be really cool if you would work
Yeah,
with her. That'd be cool.
absolutely.
I'll find out when her,
Yeah, I've
Coco
been
Carol's thing
missing
is-
a lot lately. I had a wedding on the Harvest Fest in November. I'm out, so I'd like to get back into doing. It's
cool.
been a minute.
We love having you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot. I think we're over 850 members now on the meetup. So it's going pretty well.
Okay. Thank you. On that note, when you create the Facebook post, let's forward that along to Jamie as well, because the township did get our latest social media post up last month, so thank you for that. That goes into the next topic, 10.2, discussion possible action regarding social media posts. So we're doing at least one post every month. A new member of the committee is basically doing one each month. We're doing at least one. So something like that, when we have events, we push that through. We're not only are you going to post it, but then it'll also get through the township's page and stuff like that. So that's something to consider. Joe, you did the most recent one.
Well, it hasn't been posted yet.
I know it hasn't been
Second
posted yet.
draft.
I mean, but you drafted one after last meeting that
Correct.
was going to come up
Yep.
now.
So you
And
can either use that in November or December, either one.
Yeah, so
For
we've got an
wintertime.
option to use it. John, you had handled, I think, another one as well with
Yeah.
the,
Had a couple issues.
okay, yeah, I know. Well, we hope you're feeling better, but we have one right now. I was gonna reply back, but then I knew I was gonna see it tonight. And the only thing there was like one typo that I saw
Yeah.
and the rest of it is perfect. Like had everything else looked great. So Joe, kind of topic was, mostly it kind of falls in line with the December stuff, but around the holidays and being, getting involved and getting outside around this time of year, proper footwear, proper gear, proper planning, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Joe, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
I can just read it real quick.
There you go.
And then I gotta roll.
All right.
So trail enthusiasts, as we transition to the early winter. Trail enthusiasts, as we transition to the early winter season, welcome the holiday spirit. Our cherished trails are transforming into captivating winter paradise. Eagerly awaiting your footsteps, imagine the beauty of frosty leaves beneath your boots, tranquility of the snow-covered trees, and the serene silence of nature in its winter repose. Early winter trail walking is a great way to reconnect with nature, clear your mind, and bask in the crisp, clear air that the season generously offers. Some trails may even be adorned with festive decorations, creating a cheerful and enchanting atmosphere that captures the essence of the holiday season. It's like wandering through your very own winter wonderland, filled with your joy, peace, and magical touch of nature. In addition to visual delights, trail walking serves as fantastic low-impact exercise, helping you stay active and vibrant during the winter months. It's a family-friendly activity, providing a wonderful opportunity for loved ones to come together, share stories, and create cherished holiday memories. Keep an eye out on animal tracks in the snow, adding an element of wonder and learning about much of the outdoor nature. Of course, safety is paramount. Ensure you dress warmly in layers, on the appropriate footwear, and navigate through ice and blah, blah, blah. And it finishes up, but essentially, it's a good way to just, hey, we're around.
Bravo.
Agreed.
That's awesome.
Well, considering I have to write 30 pages a day, it's not.
And the picture that Joe's going to accompany is a picture of deer tracks in the snow with a couple droplets of.
Blood.
Yes.
But no, it was really good. So, obviously with the tone of it, it falls more towards December. So, I would like to keep it for that. It just because it flows better that way.
I only have one thing I would ask you to add, just add in there that the township does not maintain trails during the snow,
Yeah.
so that it's just clear that we're not suggesting people go out and walk on the trails in the snow. Thank you.
Wow, that's it. We haven't had snow in 18 months or something like that. So, all right, I gotta.
Thanks, appreciate
Can I
it.
just ask, I should have asked, do we have any movement on that document that people can sign so we're not liable if we're external to the township?
I know Rich is reviewing it. I do not know
John,
where it
I'll give you
stands, but I'll
mine.
verify with him where it is.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. See you. All right, so next one is zoning improvements. Erin, I didn't get a notice of what was going on, so, nothing
Erin and
doing
I are
that.
scheduled to meet, I think, next week.
Thank you for that. So can you include, John on that committee as well, for that meeting? And Joe, I don't know if you want to get involved in one of our subcommittees now. I think that would be helpful, have a new opinion on that going into it. We'd like to keep those to a good 3-person with the sunshine and everything. So if you could, Mr. Neese, include Joe Kasuska and John Custer for discussion. No, he doesn't count because he doesn't vote.
I don't have voting authorities. But I will check with Erin because
He is what's
she's going to
called
meet with me
influence.
about something else as well. So let me just verify with her as well.
Perfect, thank you very much. Okay. All right, next one is the official town map, so I'll just give a brief update. I met with Mr. Neese with our preliminary draft plan that Joe Falcon, John Custer, and myself had spent quite a number of meetings over the past, what, John, 2 years now, year and a half? Year going over. I brought Beth in more recently since she, in the past years, become the vice chair, just to kind of let her keep her up to date on what's going on. We sent that over. We kind of talked about it. Steve had some phenomenal advice as to how to approach it, because I had some holes in there that we needed to fill. And the long and short of it is we're trying to get this in front of the Board of Supervisors at some point. So I have some homework to do. I have some edits that I have to make to kind of fill some of those gaps, and then get that back in front of Mr. Neese. He's going to then schedule meetings with the individual township supervisors. So we're going to try and do the meetings all like together in a single day, like one after the other,
Okay.
John.
Yep. That's good.
So I've got a couple of things I got to get done in the next basically 2 weeks to make that happen. To fill in the recommendations that Mr. Neese had made. So thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. That was very helpful. Does anybody else in the committee have any questions at this time? I mean, what's going to happen is once I get that together and then we meet with the township, then we're going to have more of a final, and then it's going to come up within our committee, the official document for everybody to make final comment and vote on of whether or not this is the product that we want to actually put to the Board of Supervisors to vote on at that point. So that's kind of the plan moving forward. Any questions? Okay. Excuse me. Old business then. On to review of the the Greenways and Open Space Network plan. So this month is Greenway corridors. So basic gist is it's talking about greenways and the definition of them. And we have a lot of greenway corridors in the township. You can kind of see if you look through of really most of them tend to be around creeks, right? They tend to be around the watersheds where you've got dense vegetation, thick tree covered canopies, and anybody of us that has deer end up in our backyard, that's usually how they end up getting there. We obviously have a lot of wildlife, deer, fox, raccoons, and different types of rodents that are always through there. So that's one of the things that most people think of with those green space corridors. John, you have brought up many times though that it's the watersheds are extremely important for our drinking water, and maintaining those to combat erosion, pollution, everything else, because everything getting in there. So that's one of the big things with the Greenway corridors.
And we do have some easements along some of those waterways
We do.
that we can take advantage of.
And there was an event in the township, political event a couple weeks ago where I got to meet Paula DeVincenzo's daughter, and just didn't know who she was, and just met her, and she asked what I was involved with, and I mentioned when I found out who she was, I brought up the thing about, is it Reese's Run that goes behind his property? I believe, and
Through his property.
through his property, yeah, right along the creek there, Reese's Run, where we were trying to get a trail of where the Veterans Memorial location is, and he obviously had a development plan coming through, and she seemed very interested. She asked for my card, and so I'm hoping that she becomes a potential ally in that conversation moving forward. So
Yeah.
very happy about that.
You mentioned that Claude is coming to work one day a week.
Claude is coming to work
Good news.
more than one day a week,
Okay.
more than 2 days a
Even
week, she was
better.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd asked about his health and how he was doing. I'd never met the man, but obviously heard, a lot about him.
Yeah.
And,
What's her name?
oh my gosh, Nicole, thank you. I wanted to say
That's
Nikki. I
the
think
other
it's
daughter.
Nicole.
Yep.
Yeah. Very nice woman. But anyways, it goes into this conversation of Greenway corridors. There's a lot of what we're trying to do is we have a lot of trails that are planned along these corridors. Right now in this part of the plan, they talk about from Creek, 24 miles, through Malvern to Delaware River. It's pretty impressive, like just that whole location. Darby Creek, obviously 26 miles. The Pico Utility Corridor, which we already know about, and we have the, I don't know what you want to call it, subcommittee, I guess, Mr. Neese, that Joe Falcon's a part of and represented from this committee. And that's a hope is to eventually connect Greer Park and Brookside Park. that's 1.3 miles. That's I mean, there's a lot more detail. They talk into the topography and geology about it, like the different shale rocks and types of soils. We do, as Mr. Neese has pointed out many times, we have a lot of steep slopes in the township. So one of the good things about that is that they're not great for development in that regard, because there's a lot of issues with developing on steep slopes. So it keeps some of these Greenway corridors from being overdeveloped as a result. The bad news is that no matter what, they are still susceptible to issues, especially when the development encroaches too close. Then you get issues with erosion and stuff like that, because if you can't speed the water coming from uphill, even where it's a little bit flatter, and then it gets to that steep spot, if it's coming faster and faster, you're still gonna have erosion. So that's one of the things that I took from this little bit of portion of this month's review. Yeah. Anyone have any comments, questions on that, anything? So again, just reminding everybody, and also for the public here, is that every month we go through and review a section of the open space network plan, because that was the document that was done by the consultants, paid for by the township. It was I guess it's our Bible. It's supposed to be the document that we're sticking to. It has all the list of where our trails are planned. Or at least the original ones. A lot of the open spaces that we're trying to preserve are marked on there. So every month we try to go through to try and make sure we keep on our direction as much as possible and not stray too far from that main mission. So just so you're aware, that's something that we do every meeting. Okay, next one on old business is just Mr. Neese, if there's been any updates on the Meadow Preserve Park.
So we're continuing to work on that. I did meet with Episcopal Academy, the engineer, and also with George. We are working through, I have to get them some information and pulling that together from the engineer, get it over to the EA Academy, and then or Episcopal Academy, and then we'll go forward with that. But we're moving forward, just taking time.
Thank you, sir. One of the things then, next one is additional business that I wanted to mention is we're coming near the end of the year. We've only got one more meeting in this year, and then every year we have the reorganization meeting in January. The last one, I guess, so this is the third year of this committee, I believe. We started in July though, so this is 2.5 years. In July, it'll be 3 full years, but had the reorganization meeting. Last year was the first time of the biggest shakeup as far as new members. John asked me to, kind of take on this, so I greatly appreciate that.
Doing a good job.
I'm trying my best. We have people's terms all are at different intervals and everything. I didn't get a chance to talk to Joe about it, so Erin and Joe are the two where their terms are up at the end of this calendar year. So I wanted to engage them to find out, are they planning on?
Well, the township is doing that. We're reaching out to every committee, finding out who would
Okay.
like to serve again. We do that every year.
Okay,
And then we've also put out for people who are interested in serving on the committee so that they can, let us know, because sometimes there's new folks who are in the community and they'd like to do that. And then for your reorganization meeting come in January, the opportunity will be for the board, this group to get together. When they do, we'll have you go through and walk through the reorg process like I do with every committee every year.
so anybody that's interested in officer positions within this committee, that I guess would be around that time frame.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
you would
Just
do
like last year.
nominations at the beginning of at the beginning of that first meeting.
Yep.
And you would elect 3 positions, your chair, your vice chair, and your secretary.
So, yeah, I think that's all I have for that. So let's go around board comment. Does anybody have, or no, that's something.
I have some.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we all thank George because for that Harvest Fest, he went out and bought a new table, so we have a folding one now.
Thank you, Chief.
And the sandbags don't have to be for us, because we had those groovy things that are, you know, you just line them on the thing, and our signs and the maps. He printed out new maps. So, yeah, the support is very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I don't feel as bad about missing
You should.
it. All right, thank you. Anybody else, any comments? Okay, next is public comment again. Really appreciate you joining us, thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Terry McCarthy, second by John Custer. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Right.
Ayes have it. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Anthony,
Yes, sir.
are you going to be adding trails to the official map or is it